Well, here we are again at MTP Software Studios. This is the Radio Entrepreneurs Show, and my name again is Jeffrey Davis. Thank you very much for tuning us in, and we've had people listening to us in over 100 countries. We're hoping this next interview you get really provocative, our guests, because this one could go viral. I always tell my staff, we're only one interview away from going worldwide viral.
Yeah.
So we're expecting that next guest to say something pretty provocative, and that's Paul Liberman, COO and co-founder of, I'm sure you've heard of them, DraftKings, Inc. Welcome.
Yeah. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. So tell us about DraftKings, and also how it all came about, because it's changed the world as a lot of us see it.
Yeah, so...
the way a lot of us play in it.
Right, yeah, that's for sure. So DraftKings, we started as a online fantasy sports company, focusing on fantasy sports games for cash. So me and my two co-founders, we worked together. We were at Vistaprint, and we played in their fantasy league. And it was February of 2011. Our fantasy season was over, and one of my co-founders came up to me and he's like, let's do fantasy for cash. We can do these types of games. Here's what's allowable. And me and my other co-founder were like, this is a great idea. We were always pretty entrepreneurial, so we set out to do DraftKings. We did a lot of research. Started the company in my spare bedroom, and came up with the name DraftKings because it was the only one that was on sale on GoDaddy, and went at it. And it wasn't. There's a plug for GoDaddy, right?
A genius after the fact.
Yeah, genius after the fact, for sure. So, we went at it and just started building a company. And very early on, we recognized, how important it was going to be to partner with leagues and partner with, all the different media companies. And we worked at it. And, kind of all of the while just growing this company in fantasy sports. And last year, the Supreme Court overturned a law called PASPA, which is the law that prohibited the expansion of sports betting in the U.S., which opened up a brand new area for us to really go into, which is sports betting. So we were the first online sports betting company to launch in August of last year, which seems like forever ago. It's been a very long few months. And now we do sports betting, online gaming, and online fantasy sports.
So you're developing this business in 2011. Did you have discussions with your partner of what you thought this could become back then?
It's funny. It's one of those things that, you kind of talk about, but not really. We're the type of founders that are always, one day at a time, grow the company to, the next stage. It's always like, it's kind of scary for us to actually think that far ahead into the future of like what it could be, because it doesn't level us. So we said, how do we make this better? How do we make this bigger? How do we launch the next sport? How do we sign the next partner? And we've obviously had our projections and plans, but it's always for us it's about hiring the right talent, operationalizing, executing, and looking forward, like what's the right thing to do at this point in time, and what's the right thing to do over over the next year or two. So, we never were, set out and said, we're going to be this company with, billions of dollars of entry fees and handle, and we're going to be in gaming and all these other categories. We actually, on a quarterly, monthly, yearly basis, just go and set the next goals for ourselves and align the teams and try to hit them. And that's the way we think. And that's actually kept us pretty grounded, I feel like, as a company.
You have a practical business plan.
Very practical.
Practical and flexible. Immediately centered with short-term goals. I think that's smart. And I think there's a lot of research that would back you up. So let me try another little game with you.
Sure.
You're in the gaming business. So let's go back. It's 2019. You have a delta between 2011. Let's play the game of three things I never imagined. And tell me three things that you never imagined would have happened that have happened with the business since then.
A lot of it is around growth. I mean, we have 700 employees. We do billions of dollars in transactions a year. We'll probably do over $3.5 billion this year across sports betting and fantasy sports. And I never would have imagined we'd honestly get to this point. But One is how close our relationship is with the leagues and how much they've embraced what we're doing, especially on the fantasy side. It's just it seemed like they're like this big 800-pound gorilla, and we're this little small company. Never would have imagined how engaged they are at growing their audience and engaging in gaming. Definitely never would have imagined the change in landscape in the U.S. around betting and gambling. We always looked at skill gaming, and now that's expanding, which is very exciting for us, and definitely gives us a lot of opportunities, but something we would have never thought about. And then just the growth. We have 700 very talented employees. We just opened up a new office in the Back Bay area of Boston, and it's just incredible to see. You kind of pinch yourself every time. You're like, wow, like, is this real? Did we really just do this?
That's very interesting. So I'm going to say the same thing. It's 2 years from now. Technology is changing dramatically. What are we going to see in the future with gambling, online sports gambling, and now with artificial intelligence?
Yeah,
I'm sure that's something that you're looking at for your particular type of business.
Yeah, I think the U.S. market is just opening up, and we're seeing just a lot more opportunities to create amazing product that engage people in live games, in stadiums, and make it more fun. So you might go to Gillette Stadium and open up your app and be able to on every drive make a prediction with NFL's next gen stats. You might be able to predict how well. You're not going to see Gronk running, I guess, but maybe you will. That's still.
Chris is still hoping.
Yeah, up for debate. Let's assume he's back next year because that's what most people would bet
the
on.
6th to 8th game he enters again.
Yeah, that's a bet we should have on our site. Is Gronk going to come back for the next season? And what game? 10th game of the season. Right. That's the over/under in the office. So you'll be able to bet on how fast they're running, how many passing yards. There'll be a whole lot of information. There's a lot of sports analytics data out there on everything from like muscle strain to speed to yardage, and I think that maybe not 2 years from now, but the general population, the general sports fan is just going to be so much more informed and so much more engaged in the sport because they're going to understand it to a much deeper level than they probably even do today.
Interesting. And the business, you have ambitions to continue to control this business and grow it the way it is today?
Yeah, like I said before, 1 year at a time for us, and we have. There are so many things. I feel like we've hardly scratched the surface in the types of things that we can be doing in sports, in gaming. There's obviously a huge shift to the way people consume entertainment and media and sports, and there are just so many opportunities for us. We have 11 million people worldwide, but most of them in the U.S. That consume our sports product. They open up our app and they engage. They play fantasy sports. While they're watching their game, they're also looking at their leaderboard. And there's so much more that we can do, more content and more entertainment that we can provide those users. So we're not done yet. So we want to keep going. So
you have a family. If your kids came to you and said they wanted to be in the business in the next few years, would you be interested in that?
Well, they'd be probably 6 years old in the next few years, so
they could be smart like Chris.
They could be very smart. Absolutely.
I grew up in a different generation. My father put me to work at 11.
Yeah, mine too, actually.
So I was in factories at 11, 12 years old. So.
Yeah, I originally actually was an immigrant from Russia, came to the U.S., so same thing. But absolutely, I would have my kids work for DraftKings. If our employees are listening to this, I hope that they feel like they're empowered and they have control, and we hire high tech people from great institutions, great marketers, and really focus on their development as well. That's something was important to me growing up, and working at Vistaprint. They did that, so it's something that we try to give back to our team. So
there's been a study in the last couple of years from one of the Ivy League schools looking at tens of thousands of companies that said the number one factor for success in business beside, bigger than strategy, bigger than funding, was culture. And I'm wondering, what's your culture? And did it grow organically, or do you really spend a lot of time trying to make sure that you have a specific type of culture?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I feel like the culture really probably reflects us as founders. We all grew up, or grew our careers, I should say, as in technology, marketing, and analytics. All three of us have a computer science background, but we left our technology, gigs to be analysts and marketers. And that's really, where we've thrived. So we have a culture around, bias for action and using data, using analytics to make decisions. And certainly in every conversation that we have in our team, in our executive team, it really comes back to the fundamentals of, what data, what argument do you have, to back it up. Data is king, not necessarily people's regular opinions. So that's number one, and that's a culture that we've created. Number two is we started as a team. It was me, Jason, and Matt, and I think we really quickly came to appreciate, the value of teamwork and the value of distributing responsibility. So I think we have a very team-based, collaborative, approach to our environment. I know everyone says that, but I think we really act on it. We reward teams. We don't necessarily reward individuals. So that's the way we look at it. And do you have to work on it? I think when we started, when we were, the three of us to 40, 50, 60 people, it became organic. But it's taken a lot of work over time to make sure that the leadership team that we hire, that helps us grow this company, remains to the same values, the same values and the same culture that we have. And that's, you don't necessarily develop it, but you make sure that the people in all, parts of the organization reflect those values from early on. So in that sense, yes, you kind of do work at it, but more in the people that you hire than anything else.
So what's the last question? What's the over/under on this show getting picked up by at least 1,000 people? I
don't have the data. What's your over/under on it? How did I do? Was it interesting enough?
We've been speaking with Paul Liberman, COO, co-founder of DraftKings. Paul, if somebody wants to find you and DraftKings, Chris, I'm sure on his phone all the time. He's a sports fanatic.
Yeah.
Where would they find you?
The best place to find me is on LinkedIn or DraftKings.com. And for anyone that's out there listening that is into entrepreneurship and is looking, to start at a smaller company, I would, I'd be remiss not to say go to careers.draftkings.com. We have plenty of roles open around sports and entertainment, and
I just lost my whole staff. and my son probably.
That's great. We're always hiring.
Good.
I'll give out my business card to the staff later to make sure that it's easy to find.
Well, I've been looking for my retirement path, so you're going to help me along.
All right, sounds good.
My name is Jeffrey Davis. We've been having a good time with Paul Liberman, COO, co-founder of DraftKings. We hope we get him again. We'd love to actually get him on our Radio Entrepreneurs platform, our cafe. But we're going to take a break. We'll be right back after these messages.